has been a special type of screw-up lately, and what I mean by that is somehow he found a way to be even more uncharismatic, even more problematic, to create more issues for his boss than he ever has before. So with all that said, JD Vance is doing his best to save face, to suck up to Donald Trump lately, and that all came out in a pretty weird moment when JD started attacking a reporter during Donald Trump's very
got roasted harder than a gas station hot dog after Trump launched into one of his classic rants. A reporter swooped in with receipts that left Vance looking like a deer in a Senate hearing. Is this the political plot twist of the year, or just another episode of Who's Graveling? Now stick around, because what happens next is equal parts cringe, chaos, and comedy gold. You don't want to miss this. JD Vance and Donald Trump. A match made in political chaos. You can practically hear the brain cells screaming for mercy every time they open their mouths, as if they're racing to see who can outdo the other. Let's talk about the latest disaster in this duo's tragic comic tour of government ineptitude. JD Vance, who somehow manages to make Donald Trump look like a seasoned politician, has been messing up in ways we didn't even think possible, and now he's doing his best to suck up to Trump like it's some sort of career-saving move. Spoiler alert, it's not. Now, if you've been living under a rock, or just actively avoiding anything to do with these two, JD Vance has recently been caught in a whirlwind of incompetence and cringeworthy behavior that's too painful to watch, but too hilarious to look away from. It's like a train wreck happening in slow motion, but instead of trains, it's a complete lack of self-awareness and accountability crashing into an ocean of delusion and ineptitude. JD's latest stunt came at a cabinet meeting because, of course, that's where the magic happens. Picture this: Trump, surrounded by sycophants, has the gall to rant about the economy, tariffs, and Christmas because, apparently, the war on Christmas has officially turned into a platform that's supposed to win votes. Yes, you heard that right. Trump's latest genius policy is apparently fighting against toy shortages. That's his big idea. Oh no, your kids might—
So all those 10 people, including the former vice president, Mike Pence, all of these people have this horribly damaged worldview, and that's really your argument?
Absolutely.
It's not like these are conservative.
Absolutely, that's my argument.
These are not conservative
Jake,
Republicans. These aren't conservative Republicans who are
Jake,
concerned about Donald Trump.
They're
not. That's not right.
All of these people, Jake, they came into office thinking that they could control Donald Trump. That when he said he wanted peace in the world,
Mike Pence thought he could control.
Not get $30, but hey, at least they'll get $2. Thanks, Trump. The Grinch would be proud. If you're enjoying, please subscribe. As if we weren't already struggling to wrap our heads around this baffling rhetoric. JD Vance takes the stage, but instead of offering any coherent argument or solution, he decides to go on the attack against the press. Why? Because why wouldn't you attack the media during a government meeting while the country's stock market is sinking faster than his approval ratings? The real kicker is his defense of Trump sounds less like a politician trying to solve problems, and more like a high school kid begging for popularity by licking the boots of the biggest bully in the room. It's as if JD's personal motto is, if you can't beat them, join them, and if you can't join them, at least don't look too stupid in the process. But spoiler alert, he fails. The man has mastered the art of deflection and victimhood. The moment things get uncomfortable, his go-to move is to throw a tantrum and blame anyone but himself or his boss. So when reporters had the audacity to ask about Trump's disastrous economic record and his sudden flip-flop on stock market credit, JD couldn't handle the heat. Instead of addressing the question like an adult, he lashed out in a desperate attempt to deflect attention from the fact that Trump's policies are tanking the economy faster than a truck full of concrete heading downhill. If only he spent as much.
When I told you before, they're having tremendous difficulty because their factories are not doing business. They made $1 trillion with Biden, $1 trillion, even $1.1 trillion with Biden selling us stuff. Much of it we don't need. You know, somebody said, oh, the shelves are going to be open. Well, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30, you know? And maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally. But
much time working on policies as he does attacking reporters for doing their job. Maybe we wouldn't be in this mess in the first place. But let's not forget about Trump, who's the ringleader of this circus. The guy who once boasted about the greatness of the stock market during his presidency is now distancing himself from the very market he claimed was the best thing since sliced bread. It's almost like watching a magician who's lost his touch. Except instead of pulling rabbits out of hats, he's pulling out economic disasters and blaming everyone else for them. His excuse for the stock market slump: it's the Biden market now, right? Because that makes total sense. The guy who literally had a front row seat to the train wreck is now acting like he wasn't the conductor. Classic Trump move: never take responsibility for anything. But what really sets this all apart is JD's attempt to justify the mess by talking about reversing trends in the past 100 days. What trends, JD? The only trend I see is the rapid decline of your credibility and the national economy. He goes on and on about how the military, manufacturing, and borders were all somehow better under Trump's reign, and yet somehow here we are facing an economic crisis. But JD, ever the loyal servant, can't seem to see that the emperor's clothes are in fact non-existent. Maybe the reason everyone thinks
from the time that I was born to the time that Donald J. Trump was inaugurated just a few months ago, we went from, again, 40 years, we went from the world's manufacturing superpower to one in which we depend on the People's Republic of China to make the things that we need. We went from the proudest military in the world to one in which we failed to meet our recruits.
Trump's administration was chaotic isn't because of the media. Maybe it's because, I don't know, the administration was actually chaotic. Just a thought. And let's talk about JD's attempt to posture as a tough guy. This guy tries so hard to be the embodiment of masculinity, but it's like watching a toddler in a tough guy costume: awkward, uncomfortable, and utterly unconvincing. He's the kind of guy who would spend hours telling you how tough he is, only to end up crying in the corner when someone challenges his views. JD's latest whine about political persecution is nothing more than a thinly veiled excuse for his